Hi, this is Nancy Yearout, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. I wanted to come on today and talk a little bit about Charlie Kirk, talk a little bit about our world, talk about what's happening across the globe with protests happening in Paris and in the UK. I see a lot of unrest, but people are standing up. So it is a turning point. And Charlie Kirk was the organizer and founder of Turning Point. And if you don't know who he was a young man who really had the love of God within his heart, the love of Jesus within his heart and soul. And he wanted the youth of America to know about God, to know about Jesus, to know about family and about children and about morals and values. And it's so inspiring to see how many of our youth here in the United States and across the world that he pumped up and that he brought knowledge to and that he got to open their Bibles. Not just the young people, people who are older like me, listen to his podcast and listen to his debates at college campuses where he had people open their minds and look at a different way. We've had so many different negative views about Charlie from the left. They call it the left. I call it from people who just don't understand. And maybe when people don't understand, they get angry or they get afraid. But for a young person to go and shoot Charlie Kirk in the prime of his life, when he was just making conversation, when he was just sharing values, sharing an opinion, is absolutely horrible and traumatic. But what it has done is wake people up to what's really going on here. This is really down to a spiritual war. We're having a spiritual war right now. Do you believe in God and Jesus or do you not? That's really what it's down to at this point. What do you believe? I've come on today because this is such a sad thing. This is not political. Everybody's making this political. Yes, he stood up for Trump and he did a lot for, I think, Trump's reelection because he spoke to college campuses which have gone completely in the other direction and gave them a choice. We all have free will. We all have the ability to open our minds and say and think what we want. And Charlie was given his opinion, and thank goodness he did. What did he stand for? Well, it's interesting. I pulled something off of from the UK of what they thought of him because over there they're holding vigils for him. And this is fabulous because so many people listen to his podcast and listen to his words. He was an avid public speaker touring the country, addressing Republican events. Many of were popular with members and with the ultra conservative Tea Party movement. And his daily talk radio show had millions of followers on social media. Turning Point, he started at the age of 18. So I just feel like it's always been in his heart and soul to do this. Now, I'll tell you what, if you didn't see his wife, Erica Kirk, speak about her husband's assassination, I suggest you take a moment and listen to her words because she also is such an advocate for truth, for God, and for Jesus, and for standing up for what you believe in. And I believe that this, if you listen to her speech, it lit a fire under her. It lit a fire under me to come on and say something. I've been so busy with my own life, I haven't come on and spoken so much about these things. And now it's given me just that, extra whatever I needed to come on today and say, you know what, we need to get back to God. We need to get back to faith. We need to teach people about values and morals and things that are really important in our life. Erica Kirk talks about find faith in Jesus. Seek out a relationship with God. And that's exactly what we need to do. The date for Charlie's memorial, Turning Point USA announced the date and the other details will be September 21st. It's very, very sad situation. but I want to talk about it and I want to talk about the guy who killed him before I get into anything else real quick here. Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin lived with a transgender partner who is now cooperating with the FBI officials. This is coming from Fox News. Kirk's alleged assassin lived with his transgender partner, senior level FBI officials told Fox News Digital. The Bureau officials confirmed that Tyler Robinson, 22, was in a romantic relationship with the unnamed person who is a male transitioning to a female, and that they shared an apartment in St. George, Utah. Those FBI officials told Fox News Digital that Robinson's partner is fully cooperating with the FBI investigation. Trump praises FBI Director Kash Patel for speedy capture of the Charlie Kirk assassination. One FBI official told Fox News Digital that the individual has been extremely cooperative. But again, we're back to this transgender stuff, and it just, who knows? Maybe that's, he wanted to do something to impress his partner. Who knows why he did this? But who is Tyler Robinson, and what do we know? The FBI declined to comment on whether Robinson's partner would be charged with a crime, but the FBI is investigating a number of tips. Every connection, every group, every link will be investigated. So they're really going into this. It's just really sad. So, moments before Robinson allegedly shot Kirk, an audience member asked Kirk, "Do you know how many transgender Americans have been mass shooters in the last 2 years?" And Kirk replied, "Too many." Kirk was then asked, "Do you know how many mass shooters there have been in America over the last 10 years, counting or not counting gang violence?" And then he was assassinated. Wow, that really sends a message, doesn't it? It really says, is God trying to tell us something here? Was Charlie here to show us that it's time? It's a turning point. It's time we stand up. It's time we not let these things happen anymore. This transgender stuff is not seem to be working out so well, does it? I want to talk a little bit about the anti-immigration protests in the UK. The rally turned violent. Over 150,000 people attended the march. The protests, organized by far-right Tommy Robinson, drew 110,000 to 150,000 people to central London, marketed as a defense of British culture and free speech. This isn't just happening here. This is happening globally, and this is why I'm bringing this to your attention. This event became one of the largest far-right gatherings in the UK in years, according to police and political analysts. So they're standing up. They're standing up in the UK, just like we're standing up here and saying, no, no more. No more violence. No more. You didn't see any violence after this assassination. You just saw people in prayer and people opening their Bibles and people going to faith. So I want to reiterate that because that's the positive that's come out of Charlie's assassination. French streets ablaze as anti-government protests disrupt daily life. Hundreds arrested after more than 200,000 demonstrators force French government into high-stakes confrontation. It's happening, you guys, across the globe. People are waking up. They're standing up. A nationwide wave of anti-government protests swept across France, filling streets with smoke, burning barricades, and tear gas as demonstrators railed against the budget cuts and political instability. The Block Everything campaign created a formidable test for President Emmanuel Macron and transformed Sébastien Leclerc as prime minister into immediate crisis, where the movement did not achieve its goal of total national disruption. On Wednesday, it successfully paralyzed significant portions of the daily life and ignited hundreds of flashpoints throughout the country. Despite deploying 80,000 police officers, 80,000 police officers who dismantled barricades, oh my God, arrested hundreds, disturbance multiplied across France. Protesters torched a bus, and Renis, were severing electrical cables in the southwest, halted train service and created traffic chaos. This is going on across the world. We're standing up. It's time to stand up. And here's the deal. I'm just going to say this. We all have these souls, right? We all have these lights and we all have this energy. And if we all just stand up and if we all just band together, we can stop all this craziness because who's in charge? We are. Not the governments, not everybody else, it's the people. And the people have the ability to say no. We're not going to have the violence anymore. No, we're not going to be lied to anymore. No, we're not going to put up with this awful behavior any longer. So we have to stand up and stand up for ourselves and our rights and band together. And it's actually a good thing to see people standing up and opening their Bibles, going to Christ and having faith. Now, there's also some cool stuff that I see going on. Here's the headline on this one. Harvard law professor spreads debunked rumor about Charlie Kirk's assassination suspect. A distinguished Harvard law professor, I'll question that, and legal scholar was hammered on social media after spreading a debunked rumor that the suspect in Charlie Kirk's assassination was ultra mega and that Republicans were trying to blame liberals for this tragedy. Here's the thing. You cannot call people names and create this atmosphere of hate and then think that somebody who isn't quite with the program or doesn't understand the whole situation or the story will go out there and think they're doing something noble. You know what I mean? These kids don't understand, and I think that's why it was so cool that Charlie was out on the college campuses. He was explaining, and I watched. It's so cool. You guys can watch. They have so many different clips that show college students come up and they ask about abortion and they ask about transgender and they ask about why these things aren't how they should be and why it should be different. And Charlie had wonderful answers. And he always went back to the Bible. He always went back to God and he always went back to Jesus and he always went back to faith. And that's what we all have to do. We have to go back to faith. People have walked away from God and it's time to go back. Now, I'll tell you something that was really interesting that I saw. Laura Jackson writes, and this is, she writes for the New York Times, and it's called Chatting with God. I found this really interesting. And here's how it goes. She's an editor for the Morning Believer. So Delphine Collins, I'm going to read this really quick. Delphine Collins, a 43-year-old preschool teacher, used to go to McDonald's for breakfast before work. She always ordered the big breakfast eggs, sausage, and pancakes. And as the sun turned Detroit's skyline pink, she stopped going, though when a woman in her neighborhood was stabbed to death while working there. Collins, who fled Liberia's civil war years ago, turned to a spiritual chatbot for comfort. It offered a psalm and said that the scriptures reminded us of God's power to heal and restore. She said it helped. She isn't alone. Tens of millions of people are turning to AI-powered religious apps that mimic conversations with clergy or even God. Now, this is really cool. In religious texts, the protagonists are often ghosted. Moses wandered in the desert. Job's suffering seemingly had no end. Muhammad petitioned heaven and for a period found silence. So what they're talking about are all these different apps, that you can go to, which is really interesting. But I'm going to tell you, instead of going to an app, what if you just sit down and have a conversation with God? You don't need an app. You just have to sit down and say, hey, God, this is what I think. And what do you think about this? Ask God, what do you feel about this? And then listen. Close your eyes and listen. If you take the time to quiet your mind and spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you have a conversation with God. God will answer. Just listen. The angels will answer. Just listen. This is what I teach. I teach connection, connecting to God, connecting to source. You can say spirit, whatever makes you comfortable, and connecting with your guardian angel. You don't need an app. You can use an app and it's really cool. I mean, I like I'll Google Bible verses and stuff like that, or I'll Google different things in the Bible that I want to know. But let's just forget about AI for a minute and sit down and just connect with God. We are all these energetic souls, and God is energy. He's love, the love energy. And so that's what we need to connect with. And if you really do have a relationship with God, it's very easy to do. Some people journal. I do. I write. I journal. Dear God, dear Goddess. I journal to God and Goddess because I believe there's a male and the female. But you be you. And then you can just write, this is what happened today. And can you guide me and ask for guidance and ask for love and ask for support? When you do this, it may sound corny, but you feel the love. You feel the support. You feel differently. You feel supported, you feel loved, and you feel centered and more aware. And this is why I came on today to talk about God, to talk about Jesus, to say we are not alone. These crazy things happen in our world, but we are down here to learn and we're down here to stand up. I believe we're down here to go back to God. We've been put down here knowing nothing, who we were before, but we do know we have a connection with the divine source, with that light, with the radiant one. Okay. And when you start working with spirit, God, whatever you say, that love energy, and you start working with Jesus, it's amazing and it changes your life. And that's what Charlie was teaching. And that's what people are starting to realize and wake up to. It's really interesting. I'm doing this podcast for you guys today, and there's like angel music going on outside my window. Don't ask me, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. But I'm just happy to be here today and to be in faith and to share my faith with you and to remind you to open your Bibles and to remind you to, hey, if an app works for you, go for it. But I'm telling you, the best thing to do is just talk to God, talk to Goddess. Say, hey, Spirit, help me out today. What's your message for me today? And then just listen. Listen to whatever comes into your head. It's quicker than you can think, and that's the divine source. Or watch for the signs that the angels leave. You may find a feather, you may see a cardinal, you may see a butterfly or a hummingbird, and that's spirit. Those are signs that, hey, we're with you. We're down here and we're learning, we're in earth school, but God is with us. Spirit is with us always. And Jesus is always with us. Jesus is the light, the truth, and the way. I know sometimes it's difficult in these situations when you see chaos going on in the world to have faith, but I wanted to read a few of the Bible verses that talk about faith. Hebrews 11:6, and without faith it is impossible to please him, for whoever would draw near to God must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who seek him. Matthew 21:22, and whatever you ask in prayer you will receive if you have faith. Romans 10:17, so faith comes from hearing and hearing through the word of Christ. Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Mark 11:22 to 24. And Jesus answered them, have faith in God. Truly I say to you, whoever say to this mountain, be taken up and thrown into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. And check out that last line. Believe that you've already received it. And that is the key. Feel what it's like once you've already gotten your wish, once you've already gotten what you asked for. Feel what it feels like. And that is when the universe brings it to you because it's that emotion, it's that feeling. How's it feel that you've already gotten what you asked for? That's how things manifest quicker to you. Don't say when it happens, say, oh, I'm so excited that I received what I asked for, and feel what it feels like, and that will speed up your manifestation process. And God told us this right here. Believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. He's teaching us. It's how the universe works. 2 Corinthians 5:7, for we walk by faith, not by sight. Isn't that the truth? Ephesians 2:8-9, for by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast. Luke, for nothing will be impossible with God, 137. 1 Corinthians 2:5, so that your faith may not rest in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God. You don't trust in men, you trust in God. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through him who strengthens me. Mark 9:23, and Jesus said to him, if you can, all things are possible for one who believes. Believe, you guys. Go out there this week. Talk about your faith. Seek out a relationship with God. Find faith in Jesus. This is really important stuff. It's down to this. Do you believe or do you not believe? Because this is a dividing point. This is the turning point. How interesting that he named it that. Because when they assassinated Charlie Kirk, it became a turning point. So I'm just using my voice today, asking you guys to stand up. And life's not so easy for any of us. I'm working here in Connecticut. I'll share a little of my personal stuff with you now. I'm working here in Connecticut, and I've always been a real estate broker. And then I was a writer, and then I've done my podcast and, all of that. And I've written books on angels. You guys know that, Guide to Angel Communication, written books on energy, that. But I got here to Connecticut and I was like, oh, I got to work. It's good to get out and work. You can't just sit. Even though I'm older now, I still get out and work. So I have this job, and this is probably going to surprise a lot of people, but I manage 3 apartment complexes. I manage a high-end complex, a medium, and a low end. And God put me in this position because I said, how may I serve? Careful what you ask for. So it's actually been a blessing, and I'm sharing this with you for a reason. It's been a blessing because I've gotten to see how difficult housing is for people, how tight money is for people, how hard it is to get into a place to live, how hard it is to pay the utilities, the electric bills. Um, I see and how messed up the system is. As in the position that I'm in, I see a lot of people who receive money from different organizations and through the government. And the sad thing that I see is that a lot of people who don't work and they're younger receive money. And then I see older people and even disabled people who have a hard time receiving anything. And so our system is totally broken. But I see the good and I see the bad. I see assistance, but not always for the people who really need it. Let me just say that. So one of my goals personally is to help with housing uh, when I'm able to, when I'm in a position financially to. That's something I'd like to do is build houses for people. Housing is a real situation, just living. People go to work just to pay their rent, just to pay their mortgage, and it's really become crazy out there. One thing that I saw that I thought was really interesting, I'm going to share with you. Have a lady who's just moved into our complex, and she's a nurse, and she works at a private home where someone who has built homes for the elderly, I think this is cool, and then they only have so many bedrooms, maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 bedrooms in each house. She has 2 different houses. This lady did this, her and her husband. I won't give out any names. And they have nurses come in and care for them, and that's how they give back. What a cool thing. Instead of having like a nursing home, but to have a private home that is given or donated, and the nurses go in and take care of people there. We're all getting older and we all want to stay home, but there isn't many places, it seems, that are really good for the elderly to go to. So I wanted to bring that up today. I'm really working to help humanity, and I work every day to help people and help them with any issues that they have. And I'm always here to do readings if you guys want them. Just if you want to connect with your angel, or you want to connect with God, or you need my assistance or my counseling, I'm happy to do it. But we all need to reach out to each other, and we all need to stand up and speak up. Don't be afraid to say you believe in God. Don't be afraid to say that you believe in Jesus. This is the time that we need to all stand together and care about each other and stop the violence. way too much violence in this world. Whether you're a Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter. These are people, and Charlie Kirk is a person with a heart and a soul. And he was killed in cold blood right in front of everybody. And how can that go on? How can we live like that? I don't want to live like that. I don't think you guys want to live like that either. So that's why I came on today to say, everybody stand up. Come on. We all have a voice. Let's stand up. Let's be the example. Okay. Gather together. Stop the hate and have faith in Jesus. Okay, guys. Everybody have a fabulous week. I wish you the best and God bless.